Really nice length to the body for 6 months, and even as a kitten has kind of that hard muscularity that you want and isn't too flabby without being too thin, because the worst thing to me when I'm judging is to get a cat in this breed class and you're judging it and it's got a perfect thinness of an adult body, because you always wonder what if something happens, bleeding imbalance, any of those things that could happen. But I always look for the evenness from shoulders all the way through the hips, and I'm talking about the top line of the muscle, if that makes sense. And I'm also looking for a straight back, because of course we get those roach backs in the breed as well. So it has a nice straight back. Stop. Then I flip the tail, and I always lean back when I judge the breed group, if you notice. I'll get them up, judge the length of their body, running down, checking the musculature, then I'll flip the tail and I'll lean back, because what I'm looking for is the balance in length of body and length of tail. I'm not one of those judges who really minds if they're toward the smaller end of the scale or the larger end of the scale, because to me there is a variance within every breed standard for size, and it's more about balance. How does that length of tail fit into that cat? How does that length of profile fit into that cat? If they're not balanced, you could go through a cat, and I've done it before, you can go through a cat point by point. This is specifically why I don't look at cats before I judge them. I don't go up to the cage and do this to all the cats in the breed, because I will prejudge them. What I do is I put them on the table, and you say I have a process I go through. I take them apart first, and I judge them point by point. And there have been cats that I've judged point by point before, and then when I go back for the overall look with a toy, or when I move them back and forth, they have scored very high on point by point, meeting their breed standard, but it just doesn't fit together. Cats have to be balanced. So I'm looking for that long tail to match the length of body. Then I always move to the head, and you have to feel for that profile. I try to tell all the new judges you have to feel for the profile. In the kittens, I always allow for a little bit of growth ridge, of course, through here, but I'm also looking for that smoothness to go from that straight profile, come over the top of the head, and then also gently curve down through the elegant neck. Should be a continuous line, and there are some where it literally stops here and there's a change of direction before the neck. I also look for a nicely aligned chin. That doesn't mean the cat should have an underbite, but I look for that nicely aligned chin to the top nose. Then I always go from the top, and this cat has a very smooth wedge. One thing that I also try to train the newer judges on is that you have to feel for the whisker as well, because you can see some cats, this cat obviously does not have it, it has a perfect little wedge, but on some of the cats they actually have floofier whisker pads, but you have to feel, because it can still be very straight, or it could be the structure of the muzzle is incorrect. They could have a pitch, so you actually have to get your hands on and feel it. Then I always look from the top, because that gives me a better indication of the wedge of the head. I love the breadth of the head on this kitten, and I love the length of the head. If a cat is not cooperating, I can always tell where the ears are set by the back. You just put gentle pressure at the base of the ears. It's not necessarily going to tell you where the ears sit if the cat is upset, but it's going to tell you the correct breadth and where the base of the ears sit on the head. Then I go to the chest. Chest is very important to me on all breeds. They shouldn't have a protruding sternum. They should be very, very flat through here, and the width should be appropriate to the breed. To me, this is the perfect width of chest for this cat at this age. Then I always run the entire length of leg on all cats, but most especially on Siamese and Orientals, because I'm looking for a refinement, but I don't want my Siamese and Orientals to be delicate. They shouldn't be a fragile boned cat. Actually, the only cat that should be a refined boned cat like that is the Cornish Rex, but they still shouldn't have that weak feel to the boning. But these guys, I want to feel, I know it sounds stupid because bones can't be strong, but I want to feel a good thickness of boning that shows me that that cat has a good degree of density and it's not too thin. Then I always skip under one paw. I don't care what color the cat is, I always check under one paw of the cat. Because if the cat is full colored, sometimes I've caught color mistakes, sometimes I've seen things that aren't supposed to be there. Oh, knock it off. Then I go back to the coat. I'm not one of the judges who minds terribly a variant coat, because in Tica we allow the variants to be oh, knock it off, you're beautiful teeth. In Tica we allow the variants to be shown, and yes, there is only one description of coat texture and how the coat should lay, but because we see so many variants, it's not something that to me is particularly important if the rest of the cat is structurally fine. I'm a structure judge first. The head has to be correct, the body has to be the correct length, the tail needs to be correct, the chest needs to be correct, boning needs to be correct, the eyes need to be almond shaped and pitched right to the center of the ears. Color and then the texture of the coat are kind of at the end of the line for me. Color is the absolute last thing I consider in the breed because you have to have everything else. You know what I mean? But to me, this cat at this age is definitely the best put together out of all of the ones in the class, and there were some really stellar cats in all 3 classes today. But this would be my choice this weekend. Even though you're grouchy. Even though you're grouchy. Oh.
It's been a long day.
Oh, hush. Oh, hush. You don't mean it. You don't mean it. Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
There were a lot of variants in the show. I was surprised. Hush. 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 Hey, what are you doing? I'm still here. I know. I know. You're doing just fine.